Well, welcome everybody to the Teach Different podcast. And we have another quote this week by Frederick Douglass, who obviously is a famous African American around the Civil War. He was a thought leader. He was a confidant of Abraham Lincoln. And of course, he was a big proponent of the anti-slavery movement and has always come up with really, really interesting, profound ideas, and was a very, very good speaker as well. We're going to start African American History Month a little early, all right, with this quote. And we're going to have quite a few in February. So we're looking forward to this quote. Of course, we've got Jarvis Funches as our guest again. This is actually our fourth podcast with Jarvis. And in case you're interested into why we would have four podcasts with one person, as we've mentioned in our other podcasts, Jarvis is a big reason that Teach Different is here and is trying to have better conversations and trying to get people together and, exchange these big ideas so that we can all get mentally healthy and get better as a society by just talking to each other, right? Get off your phones and have a real conversation, right?
Yeah, let's get
That's what
into
we
it.
do. So Jarvis, it's great to have you again. Jarvis was actually one of my students when I was a history teacher in Chicago. So this is where we're kind of like connected, and there's a big story behind how Teach Different started. Maybe we'll reveal a little bit of it at some point, but we want to head right in with the quote, of course, like we always do. And this is how this works. We're going to share the quote. I'll share it a couple times, and then we're going to go into the claim of the quote. We're going to talk about what the quote means, come up with some different experiences, hopefully, that can support it, come with different angles. And then we flip the switch and we go to the counterclaim. And we basically disagree with the quote on purpose, but not really to have a debate. It's more to just make sure we've explored the different side of the truth, because the truth is multifaceted, right? And that's what Teach Difference revealing with this conversation method. And then throughout, we're going to have some questions that are going to come up naturally. We'll get some at the end, and we'll go from there. And that's how we roll here. Anything, Jarvis, before I read the quote? Anything to add?
I just want to say thank you for having me back on the podcast. This is such a very helpful thing to me, and even to the watchers, the viewers, the listeners. Man, I hope you guys can tune in. I hope anything that me or Mr. Phelps can say today that can encourage you guys and make you guys feel welcome to come, or even just help you doing out your daily activities. This is a place of sharing, a place of freedom. And this is just a place where we come and, we just let it all out on the floor. So just thank you for listening.
Yes. And Jarvis, we've talked about how we're going to look into some organizations in Chicago that we can come in. You're going to get me to come into Chicago. We're going to have some real life conversations with people in the community, because this is what it's about, right? We all need it. So let's kick it off. Frederick Douglass: if there is no struggle, there is no progress. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Jarvis, why don't you it's so short, right?
Yeah,
Kick it
sure.
off here. What do you think?
First, I would like to start off. I start off in my personal way, like I always do. I mean, going through a struggle, it teaches you adversity. It builds character. It shows you things that you allow and you don't want to allow. It shows you how to be a monster in a good way and in a bad way. It's good and bad, but I really do love the fact that Frederick Douglass said that you have to struggle, which is a true thing, because without struggle, where you going? You're not learning anything. There's no adversity. There's nothing holding you back. You know what I'm saying? And life is a teacher itself. So life is going to give you struggles. It's going to throw you obstacles. Just in school, everybody's not book smart. I would like to use school as a term right now, because I struggle with my school. I struggle with grades. I struggle with reading sometimes, and it was a struggle. But that adversity, that struggle made me want to go harder. So I learned how to read, and I learned how to do math problems, and I learned how to break things down. So I feel like it's a good and a bad thing at the same time, but 9 times out of 10, it's a great thing to struggle. It very is. What do you think about it?
Well, life is a teacher. That's I heard what you said there.
Mhm.
I mean, it is a teacher, and you know, I just these are huge words. I mean, progress. Like
Yes.
when you struggle, why is it progress? There's something about, you come up against something,
Mhm.
you get frustrated, you turn into a monster, like in a good way to get over something because there's an obstacle in your way and you're kind of forced to really
You forced to go head on with that with that situation, and that's what I mean by it builds adversity and it builds character. Because sometimes during the struggle you can really lose yourself. You could feel that you're not good enough. Sometimes you could feel that the struggle that you're going through is half the best of you, or sometimes you could just feel like, hey, I just feel like giving up. But the truth is that without a struggle, you don't build your character, and without character, you're not gonna get too far in life. You know what I'm
go with
saying?
that.
Because you're
Go
gonna
with
get
that,
pushed.
Jarvis. Go with that idea of struggle builds character because character's starting to feel like progress to me.
Yes.
How does struggle build character?
Struggle build character. Okay, let me go a little deeper into that. Um, like they say, doing the same thing is insane, right? Okay, so if I'm doing the same thing over insanity, which is giving myself to people, loving people, keep on dishing out, giving, giving, giving. That's you're in a struggle right now. And I say you're in a struggle because you're being taken advantage of. And until you realize that you're being taken advantage of, you don't know. So that you're going through the struggle, but the struggle is going to let you know that you're being taken advantage of because you're going to realize that, hey, why is it so hard to get over this obstacle when I had it in my brain that it was easy? That's because it's something that you're missing on your way. And that's why it's good to struggle, because as you're struggling, you're learning how to pick up things as you go. You learn how to pick up, you learn how to drop things, and it builds your character in a way of that you're going to get to a certain standpoint in life to where you're strong enough to where you're going to believe that, hey, listen, adversities build character. So as I'm building my character, I love to go through the negativity. I love to go through the pain. I love to go through the heartaches because at the end, it's building me. I'm stronger. And when you get that mentality, it does build your character. You're undefeatable. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? It doesn't matter what comes your way or what's standing in your way. You're undefeatable. And that's why I feel like me personally going through the struggle was a great thing for me because it built my character. I will not allow anything to break me
Yeah.
because I understand what it feels, you know?
I'm seeing what you're saying. This idea that you can get blindsided
Mhm,
by things if you're not aware that you're being taken advantage of and you think that life is supposed to be smooth or you're not being challenged and you're getting into your inertia and your habits,
mhm.
but you're not making progress if you're not struggling a little bit. You're not vigilant.
Exactly,
People can take advantage of you and you're not ready for it. So I
exactly.
didn't think of it that way, that it kind of does keep your antennas up and it
Always.
gets you ready to correct something and get better at something. And I'm gonna say one more thing about I think about weightlifting.
Mhm,
Why do people sit there for no reason really and take a bar and go back and forth and just break their muscles down and
because
go
it
through
builds
pain?
discipline.
There you go. That's progress.
And I say and when you build discipline also plays a part in the struggle. And that's what I kind of missed probably in explaining it. But the discipline is a big part of your struggle because once you keep going through something, even when you're doing something that you don't want to do, it's building discipline, which it builds your character. It has your ego built. You see what I'm saying? It makes you walk a little different because you understand now what it takes to be you. These people in the gym every day bench pressing 100 pounds, who said they really want to do it? It's not that they want to do it, it's that they're building discipline to do things that they don't want to do. And then they're getting the group, they're getting the pleasure, they're getting the great rewards for it. Like I once heard a bodybuilder say, hey, everybody can buy a Mercedes Benz, everybody could buy a mansion, but everybody can't walk around with guns that you built. Hey, He has a point there because guess what? He had to go through the struggle to get those muscles. He had to go through the heartaches. He had to go through the pain. He had to go through being tired. He had to go through not wanting to get up and go and do it. But guess what? When he didn't want to do it, he did it. And guess what? It all paid off. So that's
There's
why
your
I always say struggle is always good because you're going to learn the discipline. You're going to learn how to get that grit, that tenacity about yourself, and you're going to learn how to just run with it. So without struggle, you really feel like life is a land of flowers.
struggle builds discipline, builds character. SDC. I'm just
Yeah.
remembering it.
Mm-hmm.
They're all related. That discipline thing is new here. I didn't see that in this, but that I really like that as a way to understand why does struggle become progress? Because I think there is a counterclaim to this that we're going to naturally go into this. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that discipline part, when you struggle, if struggle results in a discipline to your character, I think that is what puts you on another level.
Exactly.
And
Just hit
that's
me out. Just hit me out right here. Okay. Going through the struggle, right? Anybody could go through the struggle. The struggle, let's not put a specific label on struggle because the struggle could be in various things: school, work, your lifestyle. It can be something that you're going through in your personal brain. It could be something that's internal that you're struggling with. So I would not I don't want to put no title on struggle. So struggle could be various of things. But what I mean by discipline is when you're struggling you learn during the struggle, okay, I'm struggling because of this. Okay. And that's what comes into acknowledgement too. So not just discipline, but acknowledgement, it goes through the struggle too, because you have to acknowledge what's making you struggle. Once you acknowledge what's hindering you can clip it. But if you don't know what's hindering you, hey, you just flying around as a burden. You see what I'm saying? So the discipline comes in that it's okay. I acknowledge this is why I'm struggling. I'm in poverty because I have bad money management problems. Okay. Okay. I see the problem. I'm in poverty because I can't manage. Okay, cool. So the problem is managing. Now I can address this problem head on. I have to have discipline to conquer managing, right? So it's going to be a struggle with me trying to conquer this management because guess what? It's something new to me. But as I'm going through it, I'm learning how to be disciplined about the situation because when you struggle so many times, like I said, it becomes insanity if you don't do anything about it. But once you do something about it, it becomes discipline because now you know it's boundaries. Hey, I can't do that because I'm trying to go here.
so now I'm going to do this. It's turned into SADC. Struggle, acknowledge, which is more of like a knowing. You realize something, then you do the discipline to fix it, and then your character gets built. It's like there's the mess, the struggle, then there's the mind, ideally, that thinking, wait a minute, I got to work on this. Then there's
Hmm.
the discipline with the daily routine and regimen to change your life. And then other people see the product of this and your character.
And your character. And now you become a trophy. And now people wants to know your story. You know why? Because discipline made you a monster. Why? Because the struggle made you a monster. A lot of people have a problem with being realistic with themselves. So when I'm not being realistic with myself, guess what? I can't acknowledge the problem. So I don't have discipline. So now I'm going to struggle even more because guess what? I don't have the acknowledgement. I don't have the discipline. And I just feel like, hey, that's too much. So that's why I always said, just like the Frederick Douglass said with the great philosophy of that, you have to struggle. You have to, because when you struggle, I really truly do believe that it builds character.
There you
Because
go.
nobody wants to suffer constantly, constantly, constantly. Even the great kings, Mansa Musa, he suffered. He struggled. His whole kingdom. They was poor until he found the resolution. Let's dig deeper. It's something that we can do better. And they
Good.
found gold.
Yeah. That's
We
good.
gotta keep going.
It's and look, in a way, we preach to the choir on this one because
Right.
I'm close to this one. I think you are too. And now we get to push against it. And if
Mhm.
you want to start with something, if you want to start with a counterclaim here,
I
um,
counterclaim it of saying this: the struggle can very much traumatize you. So let's just put that out there. Your struggle will not always be. You will not always receive the greatest rewards out of struggling without being traumatized. I would say that because when struggling comes trauma, because you already struggling, not let alone struggling, but being new to a struggle. So now it's traumatizing you in ways that forces you to learn how to be disciplined. But I would say that my struggle traumatized me because now I live my life on a certain point of perspective. I don't see the world as like everybody else do because I've been traumatized off of my struggle. So I do see and I do react and I do feel different ways than other people do because of my situation and my struggle. So, and that's but like I said, I don't want to put a title on it because everybody could struggle in a different way. But like I would say to a person that's struggling in a brain, you would traumatize yourself to believe that certain people are not fit for you because of the way that you traumatized yourself with your own struggle. You know what I'm saying? Like and let me just put an example, okay? You're my best friend. You traumatized me in a way of not being my best friend, backstabbing me, doing a lot of crazy things. Okay. Now I find another person that's very genuine, like you were before, but I don't trust this person because I'm traumatized off the wound that you left before.
whoa, whoa, that that is profound because I think that's what really the uh problem with being traumatized is. It's the future people you meet
Hmm.
that now have to suffer because of someone else's injustice towards
Yeah.
you
Somebody
because you're
got
looking
you.
at them like you're just going to be the same thing as this other person, and that's the opposite of progress,
It's
right?
the opposite.
Because you can't get to know people. If you can't trust and have faith in people, you're going to be so limited. And
Yeah.
no one wants to get taken advantage of, right? You don't want to be a
Mhm.
punk.
So you
But
always
if
got your guard up. So that means
right,
you're never growing because with your guard up, you can't see what's in front of you. And that's what I always mean by that. Like, and being in the struggle, it very much does traumatize you. Cause like man, you say, I'm still projecting my trauma off on future people that I don't even know, but based off of my past. That's just like being the dog. I'm being the dog so much, and then I give him to you, and you raise your voice one time, and you see the dog just go utterly because you like, but you're like, whoa, what's going on? He's traumatized because he's used to something
yeah.
and now he don't know if he's gonna get it or not. So now it's traumatizing. So that's why I say it traumatized me. My
Well,
struggle.
and you know what, Jarvis, as you know, I can speak to that
For
because
sure.
I got to know you when you were 16 years old. You're what, 22 now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And when you were 16, I got, a young man coming into my classroom that had things going on, and it was very clear. We've talked about this. I immediately saw your intelligence. I immediately saw your charisma. I immediately saw how other students looked up to you.
Yeah.
And I immediately saw someone who had a something happening to them where they weren't always there. They were fighting something. It seemed like you were fighting something because you wear your heart on your sleeve. You still
For
do.
sure.
That's why I love you because your spirit is here and you're like, world, this is me. And so I saw that in you. And again, you weren't doing as in my opinion, you weren't succeeding as much as you could have because of that in class. Like you would just be like, okay, what are we studying? And you could handle all the work, no problem. So I saw that. I saw that your struggle is what I'm realizing.
Hmm. My struggle it traumatized me because, like I said before, just even coming into that environment where you made me feel welcome and you made me feel that that passion to open up, it was new to me because I had already built that barricade of being in my own, my own dungeon. I built that barricade that I didn't want to trust anybody. The one person that I did trust, that like the world was taken from me. So now I just felt like the whole world was against me. So as a young age, I built a barricade, and then like just coming into your class and you showing that love and you shining that light in on my dungeon, it made me come out of the shell like, you know what? It's a risk. It is a risk,
It
but
is.
maybe this risk is worth it. I mean, it's worth it. And I mean, I really do thank you for putting up with that because I was a knucklehead, but I really much appreciate it even more that you seen the struggle in me and not just a knucklehead. You seen that it was something haywire in this kid to act like this, man. This kid is not just hot wire like this. It's something going on.
I mean, this is great. This gives me like goosebumps just thinking about this because when I took you out into that hall that one time, last like 5 minutes,
Hmm.
all I could come up with was what's wrong. That's all I could come up with because I was so frustrated. And I was ready to say, why are you doing this? Or I'm trying to teach, and why are you doing it? And all I was just like, what's wrong? And then that's when you opened up. I mean, it's so powerful. You see it in people, and you do. I wish you could fix everybody like overnight. You see it and you just say, "Hey, you know what? Sit down for a second. Let's talk about something. Let's get you on the path." But it's
Hmm.
such a process, right?
It is.
And
It is.
it's I wanted to give you this kind of angle on it and tell me what you think as kind of another angle on the counterclaim. And tell me what you think of this. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. My thought is this: if the whole world is struggle all the time, you're reacting. You're not thinking proactively about your life and about the plans you want, and you're not getting ahead of other people and yourself, and you don't have that lighthouse that you're going for. You're just struggling, and you're like, taking arrows, and you're always reactive. I would argue maybe that sometimes there's progress, but you need peace in order to progress, right? You need to settle yourself. You need to have a place where you can go, where you can, think clearly, rationally, not let things bother you. Go with that thought if you can. If you have
True.
any thoughts about that.
I mean, in that standpoint, if we could do it like that, then I mean that, like I said before, that plays a part in acknowledging. Like you said, if we could just go to a place and just sit down and just think for a minute. First, you have to acknowledge that place to even go sit down and think. And what I mean by acknowledge that place is that you have to realize that, hey, it's not going right. People around me can't fix this. I need some time alone. And I mean, when you do separate yourself away from things and you do take that time out to just think, I feel like sometimes you could be prospering without struggling because in a way you're at peace and you're acknowledging the things that you're going through. So just I feel like you can. And it's shocking that you said that because you honestly can progress without struggle sometimes. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy that you can, but it plays a part in acknowledging. Truly it does to me. That's how I feel. It plays a big part in acknowledging because if I can't acknowledge what's going on around me and I can't be realistic with myself, I could never be at peace. You know what I'm saying?
There you go. It's related to that acknowledgement part.
Even right before you struggling, if you're just if like you said, just sit back. You don't even have to go through the struggle fully. I mean, something could happen to you one time and you could just literally sit back and analyze that situation. Like I know people that been incarcerated one time because they sat back and analyzed that situation. Like, yeah, this is just a bump in the road. This is not nothing I'm struggling with. That this is something I know I do not want to do. This is something I know I'm not coming back to. So this is not a struggle. This is not a bump. This is just a lesson learned. That's it. So, and that is progress because they progressed in a way of learning that that's not something that they want to do, and they progressed in a better way of
Yeah.
life.
Yes.
So I do feel like you can. It's just you have to acknowledge things. You have to when you go through stuff and it's your first time, don't just look at it as, hey, shit happens. Look at it as if, let me learn from this experience, okay? I may not want to sit back and just acknowledge the situation because of how bad it is or the situation, but you have to face it head on so you could get that full throttle of it. And then that way you can, not go through it again. Like me personally, I've been through things one time in life and I sat back and analyzed the situation like, this went wrong. I could have did this better, and I don't want to be in this predicament anymore. So I'm just going to take A and B procedures not to be in this procedure. So I mean, that did cut my struggle short. Yeah, it did. But I also feel like back to the counterclaim, like you gonna need some struggle. You gonna need it. You gonna need some experience. I would like to say that. Let's I would say experience struggle, not even the struggle. You would just need to experience just a tad bit of a struggle,
You
and
go.
then you can manipulate it to your best ability. But you for
There you
sure
go.
can not
Yeah.
struggle and proceed. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You it's almost like the perfect mix.
Yeah, like you can learn from other people's mistakes.
Exactly. Exactly. And another thing I just thought of as you were talking, there's a lot of things that people struggle with,
Hmm.
but they keep struggling with it. And sometimes it's just trivial. Like you're picking a battle in your life and you're struggling with something that isn't going to get you any further in your life. And I'm trying to, if you can think of an example, like pop up with one, but I'm just thinking of something like, you know,
Let
uh,
me.
yeah,
I
go
would
ahead.
think of a relationship. You're struggling. You're in a relationship with this person. You've been struggling with this person for 10 or 15 years. You keep
There
getting
you
the
go.
same result. You keep getting the same result. You to try A, B, C, D, E, F, G plans. You keep getting the same result. At that point, that is not progress. That's also insanity. But that's also you being contempt and being comfortable with your struggle. And that means your struggle has defeated you.
You know what? You're right. It's become like wallpaper.
Hmm.
You think that the life is that.
You just learn to live with it. And that means your struggle has defeated you in a way because, like I said, the acknowledgement, that this is not gonna work. You know that you put 15 years into this marriage. You know that you tried everything that you could try. It's still not working. At that point, it becomes insanity. And it becomes that your struggle has defeated you. You let your situation defeat you, and now you has become content with it. Now you're okay with living with it. You're okay with being miserable. You just think this is the way of life when it's really not. You let your struggle defeat you. So I would tell those people in any type of nature, not even in that nature, just like learn how to acknowledge your situation before you get defeated by your situation.
Beautiful. Because without that acknowledgement, you don't have the mental.
You don't have the choice. You don't even have an option. You don't have an scapegoat because you're not
Right.
being realistic with yourself.
That's right.
Like with that relationship with man, you know you put 15 years in a relationship and it's not working. You're not being realistic with yourself. You know that it's not working. You just don't want to take that accountability of saying, hey, I know it's not working. I know it's gonna hurt me sincerely to let this go, but I just can't take it anymore. I have to let it go. See, people are not going to be realistic with themselves. And that's what I mean by being defeated by their struggle. Because guess what? You're not being realistic with yourself. So you're not going to never, ever acknowledge this situation because you're not being realistic with yourself. So with that, you're not acknowledging the situation. Now you're suffering. Now your suffer has it's just defeated you. Now you're walking around like a zombie, like I would say a nonchalant person. Now you're being a nonchalant person about what you're going through. And,
Yeah.
and it's sad to say that it's a lot of, I would say probably like 50% of relationships that's like that, that people are just content with.
Resignation. They're used to the pain and
Exactly.
struggle, and they're not thinking it can get better. It should get better. They're thinking this is life. You just made me start us with an essential question. See if you can build on this, or maybe you got another one in your
Mhm.
mind. But mine's very simple. How do you know if the struggle is worth it? Wow.
That's a mind blower.
Right? Because there's
That's a
some
mind
struggles
blower.
that you just need to let go, but there's some that you should never run from. You need to, you know, how
You
do you
said it
know?
was you said it was a simple, but that's quite tricky. That's a tricky question, but it's a good one. Only thing that I can really like, man, because it's tricky because you would never know if a struggle is worth it or not. But I would say if you, okay, I will put it like this. In so many terms, if I know that I'm trying to save up to get 20,000, but I know it's going to be a struggle to get $20,000, but the bigger picture is greater. Getting 10, let me say this. So if I see that I'm wanting $20,000 and I'm saving up to get this $20,000, I would say that the cost of not getting this $20,000 will be greater than getting the $20,000. So I would say that that struggle would be worth it. But on a term of relationship or a term of something that you can't really see a clear goal of, I don't really know. It's tricky, but I mean, if you could say that, hey, I want to get a new car and I know it's going to take some time and it's struggling to get the car, then it's worth it because you know that it's a greater price at the end. But relationship wise, or man, that's tricky.
That's a
That,
tough one, right?
that's
Because
mad
I
tricky.
guess you would reframe the question and say, how do you know if this relationship is worth it? I mean, that's how that
Right,
would
right,
be.
right.
It's like the same, and that's
That's
the same
right.
struggling in a relationship. But anyway, I that's my biggest one.
I would say to that question, to answer it, like even to the podcast listeners and the people that's viewing this, just to clarify it, if you have a clear picture and a clear goal, and you know that this goal is going to cause you to struggle a little bit, I mean that go right ahead and enjoy that struggle because you're going to gain something at the end. But if you don't have a clear picture or a clear goal and you're struggling, man, look, cut it off because if it's not clear at that end, you just have to cut it off. You got to trust your gut at that point. And
At
if
least
it's
acknowledge that you need to sit with some peace and
yeah,
really think about what it is you're struggling with and whether it's worth it.
yeah,
Like just stop yourself and
stop.
ask the question.
Yeah, and I would tell the listeners, please stop. Please. If you're struggling or you don't know what, hey, listen, please go to the car,
Look,
go in the room,
this is what
20 minutes and just sit down and man, listen, think real hard on the situation. For
see,
real, meditating is very useful. I'm telling you, if you sit and you meditate, your brain will answer a lot of questions that you've been roaming the answer to. I'm telling
yes,
you,
it will.
you have,
This is
man.
why, Jarvis, this is why I love this method because we started out basically in the same boat with Frederick
Mhm.
Douglass. I still am. You still are, I'm sure. If there's no struggle, there's no progress. And here we are at the end asking these big questions and basically I giving some advice maybe to people. Like
Yeah,
if you're in this struggle and it's been going on forever, you need to sit down and ask yourself some really deep
some
questions.
real questions, man. It's gonna get
Just,
serious.
just
Hey, that 30 minutes is gonna get real serious,
right.
but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Man, that price is greater than paying the price that you've been paying for 15 years. I mean, hey, listen, you have to acknowledge it, man. We got to be realistic with each other, and I love this podcast, and that's what we going, pushing out to the listeners and to the viewers, man. Look, it hurt to be realistic with yourself, but
Yes.
man, listen. When you
Yes.
learn to be realistic with yourself, it'll be a greater price that you didn't pay.
That's the beginning, right? And then if you want to keep struggling, you do it, but you're doing it with a purpose, right?
At that point, if you decide to keep struggling, you're doing it at your own cost. But at least you know
Right.
that you're doing it at your own cost. Don't, man, please, to all the listeners, if you're struggling, I hope this Frederick Douglass quote could help you guys. If you're struggling, please just take that 30 minutes out, man. Notify if this struggle is worth it, or if this is just another bag on the boat,
Yeah.
please toss it off.
And this is perfect. And speaking of 30 minutes, that's about how long we spent on this quote. I love where we went with it. We definitely gave oxygen to the claim and the counterclaim on this. And I do think about this, essential question at the end, that ultimate question, whatever you're struggling with, you got to decide whether or not it's something you want to continue, or something you want to let go, and I think that
Sure.
in itself is something that everybody can take with them.
Key claim of today's quote to
Yes.
all my listeners, to all my viewers, acknowledge, acknowledge, please.
Knowledge.
The key quote, the key thing to struggling is acknowledgement. Once you acknowledge what you're struggling for, then you can understand if the price is willing to be paid.
There you
Please acknowledge, sit back. It is very uncomfortable with sitting with yourself for 30 minutes. Trust and believe me, I know, because your brain is your greatest critic. But man, listen, get through it and let's get to it.
Love it, man. Thank you, Jarvis. We this won't be the last one, and I'm coming up to Chicago soon, so I'm
I'm
looking
ready for
forward
you.
to it. All right. Okay.
I'm ready for you.
Take care, everybody.